Something's not adding up in Hollywood. And if what I'm about to tell you is true, it could be one of the darkest scandals ever tied to a so-called America's dad. Picture this: Bill Cosby, the man once praised as the ultimate TV father figure, allegedly giving the green light to have his own on-screen son, Malcolm Jamal Warner, permanently handled, not figuratively, not career-wise. I'm talking about a straight-up kill order. And the one pulling back the curtain, none other than Ice Cube, a man who's no stranger to calling out the system. But this time, he's pointing his finger right at the pudding man himself. The alleged proof: leaked text messages, burner phones, cryptic orders like shut him down for good, and whispers of a missing hard drive filled with secrets powerful enough to burn down an empire. If these claims are real, we're not just talking about a celebrity feud, we're talking betrayal, silencing, and an alleged Hollywood cover-up so deep, it makes scandal look like a Saturday morning cartoon. This isn't nostalgia, this is danger. And once you hear what Ice Cube says went down, you'll never watch The Cosby Show the same way again. Let's start at the top of this tangled mess. Because if you think this is just another celebrity beef, you're not even in the same galaxy as the truth we're about to dive into. The year is 2025. Hollywood is still reeling from years of scandals, Me Too allegations, secret settlements, exposes that took down billion-dollar careers. Just when you think nothing can surprise the public anymore, here comes a curveball nobody saw coming. Ice Cube, hip-hop royalty turned media mogul, steps up to a microphone and casually drops a grenade. Bill Cosby put out a kill order on Malcolm Jamal Warner. Cue the record scratch. The crowd freezes, and the internet, oh, the internet, explodes. Bill Cosby's reputation was already hanging by a thread. The man went from America's moral compass to the poster child for disgrace. Once celebrated for The Cosby Show, the sitcom that practically became the gold standard for family programming, Cosby's public image shattered after dozens of women accused him of sexual assault. Court cases, prison time, appeals. His name became shorthand for hypocrisy in Hollywood. But if you thought the Cosby saga ended in the courtroom, think again. According to Ice Cube, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Cube paints a picture of a man who wasn't just desperate to cling to whatever shreds of influence he had left, but a man who was willing to silence anyone who threatened his carefully guarded image and the secrets buried under it. And at the center of that alleged threat, Malcolm Jamal Warner. For years, Malcolm was the face of youthful innocence on The Cosby Show. Viewers watched him grow up on screen, always smiling next to his TV dad. But behind the scenes, rumors say things were a whole lot darker. According to unnamed sources Cube claims to have spoken with, Malcolm had stumbled upon a treasure trove of information: internal memos, production diaries, off-the-record testimonies from crew members that documented everything from shady contracts to underdatable payouts. And this wasn't just about Cosby. Oh no, this was about a network, a tangled web of Hollywood elite producers, executives, and gatekeepers who had been allegedly covering for each other's crimes for decades. Think organized crime, but with red carpets and Emmy statues. Malcolm, apparently tired of staying quiet, started working on what insiders now call the documentary that could have changed everything. This wasn't going to be a vanity project. Malcolm wasn't looking for a comeback role, he was looking to burn bridges and expose the rot. Sources claim he'd already shot interviews with former child stars who had horror stories to tell, ex-employees who'd been silenced with NDAs, and even people who claimed they'd been threatened for speaking out. There were rumors of video evidence, grainy behind-the-scenes footage, showing interactions that would make any publicist's blood run cold. And then there was the drive. The external hard drive Malcolm kept close. According to Cube, it contained everything: raw footage, transcripts, legal documents, think Pandora's box, but in a portable WD My Passport. Here's where things get even wilder. Cube claims he got access to screenshots from a burner phone tied to a major Hollywood power player. According to him, this phone was later traced through some very creative detective work to an associate of Cosby's legal team. One of the alleged messages read, "The kid needs to be taken out of syndication permanently." Another, even more chilling, "Agent K will handle the Malcolm situation. Expect no delays." And then the one that broke the internet, handled. This one, allegedly sent less than 24 hours before Malcolm was found dead. Officially, Malcolm's death was ruled non-suspicious. The reports said it was a sudden cardiac arrest. Tragic, but nothing criminal. But people close to him weren't buying it. In the weeks before his death, Malcolm had reportedly told friends, "They know what I have. I shouldn't have kept copies. And, if anything happens to me, check the files on the drive." That drive, missing. Gone without a trace. Even more suspicious, his assistant, one of the few people who had access to the documentary footage, disappeared just days later. Once Cube went public with these allegations, whispers started spreading in every corner of Hollywood. Some people claimed they'd heard Malcolm was about to drop career-ending bombs on multiple lifters. Others say they knew he'd been getting strange phone calls and known numbers, distorted voices, veiled threats. The entertainment blogs went into overdrive. Conspiracy subreddits started mapping out timelines, comparing Malcolm's last public appearances to similar mysterious incidents involving other whistleblowers. And yet, the big outlets stayed quiet. CNN, nothing. Entertainment Tonight, radio silence. It was as if the story had been put on an industry-wide lockdown. Ice Cube didn't care about the blackout. In a live stream that has since been reposted thousands of times, he went all in. They tried to shut me up, but if they can take out Malcolm, they can take out anyone. This ain't just about one man, it's about the whole damn system protecting itself. Cube claimed that the FBI had been given the evidence but were dragging their feet. He accused certain networks of killing the story to protect their advertisers, and he warned plain and simple that more people were in danger. And here's where this gets even more insane, because just when you think the allegations couldn't get wilder, Cube says he has audio recordings of conversations that allegedly prove Cosby's direct involvement, and the way they were planning to make Malcolm disappear without leaving a trace. But what's on those tapes? And why has nobody in law enforcement acted on them? Yet the tapes, that's where Ice Cube claimed the real proof lived. Not just vague text messages or whispered accusations, but actual voices, unmistakable, undeniable, and dripping with intent. In his live stream, Cube didn't play them outright, he said, for legal reasons. But you could hear the smirk in his voice, instead describing them in just enough detail to make the audience's skin crawl. According to him, one of the recordings was from a late-night conference call. Not the kind you'd have to schedule through Zoom, but an old three-way call. Private lines, untraceable numbers. The first voice, allegedly Bill Cosby himself, speaking in a slow, calculated tone. Cube claimed the words were chilling. Loose ends have no place in legacy building, you understand. Then came the second voice, deeper, rougher, the kind of voice that doesn't ask questions, only takes orders. Consider it handled, it said. The call ended abruptly. No polite goodbyes, no small talk, just the unmistakable weight of a death sentence, casually handed down like an overdue invoice. But that wasn't the only audio. There was another clip, Cube said, recorded in what sounded like a luxury hotel suite. You could hear the clink of glasses, muffled laughter in the background. And then a female voice, possibly an actress whose name still appears in Blockbuster. Credits today, saying, "You can't let that boy put this out. If one falls, we all fall." The laughter that followed wasn't the kind you hear in comedy clubs. It was sharp, cruel, and final. Cube swore there were more. Dozens of hours of conversations, all pointing to the same thing. A network of untouchables, ready to crush anyone who threatened their control. The problem, none of it was in public hands. He claimed Malcolm's drive had been confiscated by agents hours after his death. Not police, not FBI, just men in dark suits with no badges, no paperwork, and no names. The building's security cameras, which could have captured their faces, had coincidentally malfunctioned that day. The footage, corrupted beyond recovery. How convenient, Cube said. He only got snippets of the tapes because someone, an unnamed friend of a friend, made digital copies before the originals vanished. That friend, according to Cube, was now living off the grid, in a cabin somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, too scared to even check his own mailbox. By now, the internet wasn't just buzzing, it was in full meltdown. Hashtags like #JusticeForMalcolm and #CosbyConspiracy were trending worldwide. Twitter threads appeared with diagrams linking every major Hollywood scandal of the last 20 years, all tracing back to a handful of shadowy figures. TikTokers made mini documentaries with ominous background music, dissecting Cube's every word. And yet, the silence from the top was deafening. No mainstream outlet touched it. No official statement from law enforcement. Even Cosby's PR team, usually quick to issue blunt denials, stayed eerily quiet. That silence, Cube argued, was the loudest confession of all. Then came the so-called witnesses. A man claiming to have been a valet at the hotel where one of the meetings allegedly happened went on an independent podcast to spill what he'd seen. He described a black SUV with tinted windows pulling up to a side entrance at 2 a.m. No license plates, just a paper temporary tag. Out stepped a man he swore was Cosby, flanked by two younger men in suits. 10 minutes later, another SUV arrived. This one dropping off a producer whose name everyone in Hollywood knows, but whose public image is squeaky clean. The valet said he'd been tipped $500 in cash and told to forget the night ever happened. But the details burned into his memory, and after Cube's live stream, he couldn't keep it to himself any longer. There was also a makeup artist who worked on Malcolm's last TV appearance. She claimed he'd been visibly stressed, constantly checking his phone between takes. He'd allegedly shown her a message that read, "You're running out of time. Stop now." She didn't know what it meant at the time, but in hindsight, it was the kind of thing you wish you could unsee. Took these accounts and wove them into a narrative so tight, it was hard not to believe him. He wasn't just pointing fingers, he was connecting dots, and each dot had a name, a face, and a Hollywood resume. Then came his boldest claim yet, that Malcolm's death wasn't an isolated event. Cube rattled off a list of other names, actors, producers, even a studio accountant, all of whom had died suddenly after allegedly preparing to go public. With damaging information, heart attacks, car accidents, suicides, every one of them tied, in some way, to the same small group of power brokers. By this point, the chat on Cube's livestream was moving so fast you couldn't even read it. People were demanding the tapes. Some begged Cube to release them immediately. Others warned him to watch his back. A few skeptics accused him of making it all up for clout, but even the doubters admitted if he was lying, he was doing it with the kind of detail that's almost impossible to fake. Cube ended that live stream with a line that hit like a gunshot: "If I disappear, you know why." And then he logged off. No good night, no follow-up post, just gone. That's when the story took another twist. Less than 48 hours later, Cube's personal assistant posted a cryptic update to Instagram, a photo of a locked briefcase with the caption, "Safe until the time is right." The comment section went nuclear. Was this the evidence? Was Cube planning a slow, strategic release? Or was it a warning that the briefcase itself was already a target? In the days that followed, Cube wasn't seen in public. No red carpet appearances, no Instagram selfies, no studio sightings. Rumors flew that he'd left the country. Some claimed he was hiding in plain sight, blending into everyday crowds while plotting his next move. Others feared the worst, that the same people who got to Malcolm had finally gotten to him. The tension was unbearable. Every hour without news felt like an eternity. Independent journalists started sniffing around, only to find doors slammed in their faces. One even claimed his laptop was hacked after he sent an email inquiry to a former Cosby Show crew member. Another said he received an unmarked envelope containing nothing but a photo of his house. It was clear someone wanted this story buried. And yet, something about Cube's last livestream kept gnawing at the public. He'd hinted more than once that the tapes weren't just about Cosby, that they revealed something far bigger, involving names nobody would ever suspect. Politicians, CEOs, people who could make problems vanish with a single phone call. Which brings us right to the edge of the cliff. Because if the whispers are true, Part 3 isn't just about a Hollywood scandal anymore. It's about a conspiracy so massive, it reaches from the sound stages of Los Angeles to the highest offices in the country. And the question isn't whether it's real, it's how much longer they can keep it hidden. If this video felt like the fuse was burning low, Part 3 is the moment the dynamite finally goes off. Because what Ice Cube hinted at next ripped the conversation out of Hollywood's control and dumped it straight into the lap of something much bigger, much darker, and far more dangerous than celebrity gossip. Remember how Cube said the tapes weren't just about Cosby? That was him playing chess while everyone else was still setting up the board. The deeper the whispers went, the clearer it became. These recordings were allegedly packed with names that didn't belong in TMZ headlines, but in history books, presidents, senators, billion-dollar CEOs, even a royal or two. One of the leaked summaries that surfaced online claimed that a particular conversation, dated only weeks before Malcolm's death, included Cosby speaking to a man identified only as the senator. The topic, not Malcolm himself, but a list. This list, according to the summary, was a roster of individuals who had either dirt on the network or were planning to expose it. Malcolm's name was said to be near the top, right under a television producer who died in what police called an unfortunate boating accident the year before. And here's where the paranoia kicked into overdrive. Reddit threads and underground forums began cross-referencing celebrity deaths, freak accidents, and sudden disappearances from the last decade. The patterns were eerie. Every one of these people had, at some point, crossed paths with the same inner circle. The conspiracy theorists called it the ring. Not a studio. Not a gang. Something in between. A private alliance where power wasn't just measured in money, but in how efficiently you could make someone vanish. Cube, still in hiding, allegedly, began feeding cryptic clues to a small network of independent vloggers. They started releasing videos with titles like The Senator and The Ring. What Malcolm knew and Bill Cosby wasn't working alone. Each clip was part analysis, part speculation, part coded message. One even included a slowed-down audio clip of what sounded like someone saying, "The vault is in DC." The vault became the new obsession. Some believed it was a literal underground bunker somewhere in Washington, stacked with decades of blackmail material. Others thought it was a digital archive, encrypted and hidden on a server controlled by the Ring. The wilder theories said it wasn't a place at all, but a person, someone who had memorized enough incriminating details to destroy careers across continents. Meanwhile, the public was splitting into camps. On one side, the believers convinced Cube was risking his life to pull back the curtain on the biggest cover-up in entertainment history. On the other, the skeptics who insisted it was a marketing stunt for some secret project. But even the skeptics started sweating when a third camp emerged. People who claimed they'd seen things firsthand. One anonymous ex-security contractor posted on an encrypted forum, saying he'd once been assigned to escort Malcolm to a meeting. According to him, Malcolm didn't know the meeting was a setup until it was too late. The room had two men waiting for him, one in a tailored suit, the other in casual clothes, but with the posture of someone who'd been military. The conversation was polite but loaded. "You have talent," the suited man allegedly said. "But talent can be redirected." Malcolm's refusal, the contractor claimed, was the moment he signed his own death warrant. It wasn't just online chatter anymore. The physical world started shifting to several small-time podcasters who'd been covering the Cosby story, reported being followed by unmarked cars. A Los Angeles-based blogger posted a tearful video, saying she'd been sent a package containing a single black glove and a note that read, "We're watching." She deleted her account less than 24 hours later, and then came the break, or at least, what felt like one. A whistleblower from inside a major streaming platform claimed that Malcolm's unfinished documentary wasn't entirely gone. According to him, fragments of it had been backed up to the platform's internal servers when Malcolm had pitched it as a limited series months before his death. The whistleblower said he'd seen clips, raw, unedited, but unmistakably damning. In one, Malcolm allegedly confronted a former network executive about hush money payments. The executive tried to laugh it off, but the camera caught his hands shaking. Before anyone could verify the claim, the whistleblower's social media accounts vanished. His LinkedIn profile went user not found. His apartment emptied overnight, neighbors said, and the server logs from the streaming platform wiped clean. At this point, the story had snowballed into something unstoppable. Even if half the details were exaggerated, the sheer volume of overlapping accounts made it harder and harder to dismiss. People began digging into Cosby's financial records, finding curious consulting fees paid to shell companies linked to known fixers. Others scrutinized Ice Cube's past statements, noticing how many times he'd hinted years before Malcolm's death that Hollywood ain't what you think it
was
is.
Found
Then
dead
Cube
off the
dropped
coast
what might
of
have been
Costa
his
Rica,
final breadcrumb,
Costa Rica,
a grainy
y'all.
2-minute audio clip posted anonymously on a file-sharing site. The voices were hard to make out over static, but the last line was clear as day. Phase 3 is in motion. By the time they know, we'll own the narrative. Oh, we'll own the narrative. That phrase, own the narrative, became the rallying cry for everyone demanding the truth. Protesters began gathering outside network headquarters in LA, holding up signs with Malcolm's face and the hashtag own the narrative. Celebrities started subtweeting cryptic messages. One A-list actress posted a black square with the caption, "You can't cancel a ghost." The backlash wasn't just loud, it was effective. Sponsors began quietly pulling ads from shows tied to anyone named in the rumors. A major talk show host abruptly announced a hiatus after being linked, through nothing more than a single suspicious dinner photo, to one of the ring's alleged members. It felt like the industry was bracing for an earthquake. And yet, nothing official moved. No indictments, no raids, no subpoenas. Just this growing, suffocating awareness that something big was sitting just out of reach, locked behind layers of influence and fear. In the end, the truth about the tapes, the ring, and Malcolm's death may never be known in a courtroom. But one thing was certain, Ice Cube had kicked a hornet's nest that wasn't going to settle anytime soon. Every day the story stayed alive. More people started asking questions. And questions, as history has shown, are the one thing no amount of money or power can fully erase. So here we are, with the fuse burned all the way down, staring at a box of dynamite that may never explode, or may go off in a way that changes everything we thought we knew about fame, power, and what happens when someone dares to tell the wrong story. So now you've heard it all. The whispers, the coincidences, the missing files, the chilling texts, and the shadowy network that might be pulling Hollywood's strings. But here's the thing. If even one piece of this puzzle is true, we're not just talking about celebrity drama anymore. We're talking about an entire system, built to protect itself at any cost. If they could allegedly take out Malcolm Jamal Warner, a man who grew up in America's living rooms, and erase nearly every trace of what he was working on, what does that mean for the rest of us? How many stories have been buried before they ever saw the light of day? How many voices have been silenced before they could speak? And maybe the most dangerous question of all, who's next? I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm here to put the pieces in front of you and let you decide whether this is just another wild conspiracy or the most important story Hollywood never wanted you to hear. But remember, silence is exactly what they want. So if you want the truth to stay alive, if you want more people asking the hard questions, don't just sit there. Share this video. Flood the comments with your theories. Tag every friend who still thinks fame equals innocence. Hit that like button so the algorithm doesn't bury this the same way they buried Malcolm's files. And subscribe. Because the deeper we dig, the more they'll try to shut us up. This isn't just a story anymore. This is a fight for the narrative. And as long as we're still talking, they haven't won.